following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games, a show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both the player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts of Extraordinary Character, Chris Holmes and Stephan Dragonspawn. How are we doing, fellas?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing extraordinarily well right now. Yeah, it's been. I had a pretty fun time DMing, dungeon mastering Saturday night. Killed a 6th level wizard with some yellow mold, baby. So that was pretty damn fun. Well done there, Drew. Well done. Thanks for tripping that trap. Anyways, yeah, that's been good. And of course, cooked the briskets yesterday. Finishing them up today. What's up, Stephan? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good too. Last week, I had my session 0 for my face-to-face Genesys game, where I'm introducing some new players to narrative dice. So we did a little character creation, went over the rule system a little bit, the symbols, and did a really brief scenario just to work out how dice pooling and damage and combat works.
Cool, dude.
And they're stoked for it. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That is good.
So,
how you doing,
I just had one player. Had one player. Sorry, couldn't make it, so his character will have to be introduced later. So we'll have a session 0.5.
Excellent. How about you, Tony?
I've been pretty good. Working. In my 12.6 seconds of free time a day, I've been writing my Con on the Cob adventures and getting those. I finally finished up all the pre-gen character work and all that stuff. So now it's just a matter of picking out the right minis and maps and all the toys. So that'll happen probably the day before the con.
Of course.
Finding the right dolls to play with.
Right.
That's right.
So we have a very special show today. What are we doing today?
Yes,
Tony?
we do. Well, we're doing a first for us. Now, this is we kind of, when we started the show, we kind of had this we don't want to interview the industry guys kind of feel, because everybody interviews the industry guys, and they always just answer the question with, I can't talk about that. So but then a few weeks ago, Fantasy Flight came out with the Genesys Foundry, and we found our way to talk to people. So what we're going to do, we're starting off with our first one tonight. We're starting a new show segment, and it's going to be a new show format that we're trying out. What we'd like you listeners to do is give us as much feedback as you can on this. If you would like more of these, there'll be more coming. If you think this is dumb, tell Stephan, not me. I don't care.
That's
No,
right.
I'm just kidding.
And tell him on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook.
I'll be very polite and say I'm sorry. Really, I'm sorry. Sorry, eh?
Or sorry.
We are going to step on over into our new show segment called The People of Genesys.
All right. Welcome to the People of Genesys. Oh, wait a second. I'm not going to be singing. You can't. It's not that. So yeah, this is like Tony said. We're gonna introduce somebody here from the industry, get to know them, BS around with them, bullshit around with them a little bit, and we have Keith Kappel on. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Thanks, guys. I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to trailblaze a new segment for you guys. No pressure, right? Like
none whatsoever.
You're popping our
If people
cherry.
don't like it, I feel like it's a judgment against me as a person when I try not to cry myself to sleep if it doesn't work out.
That's right.
We'll
Make sure
totally
you
blame Keith.
post it on Facebook and everywhere, and tweet at Stephan.
Yep.
All right.
So why did we bring Keith up? Well, first of all, Keith has numerous works out there. He's done numerous contributions on more than a dozen products in the Star Wars L5R RPGs from FFG. He's the co-founder and guest student of Adventure Writers Academy, and we'll have a link in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
His Genesys credits include portions of Shadow of the Beanstalk. Which portions? NPCs, wasn't it?
I did all the adversaries. There's also some sort of like adventure builder in the back with
that was slick.
Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 sort of adventure builder product. So that was a Sam Stewart concept, but he had me write it and realize it. I think I just did those 2 parts.
Nice.
Cool.
And
cool.
also you've recently been working on Keyforge and the Expanded Player's Guide.
Yeah, the 2 new
looking
announced
forward
ones.
Yeah.
They've announced some of what I did, I want to say, on the Player's Guide. They mentioned a bunch of vehicle stuff.
Oh, cool.
They mentioned a bunch of new adversary stuff. I think they mentioned some sort of like challenge rating system or something like that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I think they did in an article. If not, like, I'm in big trouble. But
That's right.
Don't worry about it. We'll all assume no one listens to this
The
anyway.
10 people that listen to this, don't worry about it.
no, I'm like 98% sure they mentioned something about it. I did some work on that as well, I want to say. So,
Cool.
yeah, that's a real exciting one to have coming out. And then Keyforge was really fun to work on, too.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. Although it wasn't the setting book that I thought we were going to get, I was very, very, very strongly thinking we were getting Tannhauser. It is definitely one I will play the heck out of.
Yeah,
I'm a big Keyforge fan. So
I obviously don't have much in the way of insight into like why they pick which setting over another.
Mm-hmm.
But they just sort of say, "Hey, want to work on a setting?" And I say yes or no. But I think the great appeal of Keyforge as a setting is that it's like it's a kitchen sink setting, right? Like Rifts or Gamma World or something like that. But that means that it's sort of like 6, 8, 10, 20 settings in one book. So it's really great for, I think, anybody running a Genesys game, because there will be one of those factions from the card game will be like, well, that's sort of like what I'm doing. And there'll be something to steal from it, even if you're not necessarily interested in playing in Keyforge specifically.
Oh, that's cool.
You'll have some high-tech stuff, some more magic stuff,
Right.
the aliens with the Martian and the Elven subterfuge. Or I've played a bit of Keyforge too, which is kind of cool. I mean, and it's popular, so why not strike while,
That's right.
Right.
Stephan and I are planning on going head-to-head at Con on the Cob this year. So
Yeah, we're bringing our decks and
I was down. I was down at the FFG Gaming Center, and they have a frickin' vending machine with filled the Keyforge decks. I think they brought to Gen
clever.
Con. It's like a one of a kind thing, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Yeah,
it's totally how you sell Keyforge in Japan, right there.
you know it. And then one more line item here that we're going to be mainly talking about tonight, and that's his Ready Fight, an Unarmed Combat Supplement from High Metric Games, and which is on Drive-Thru RPG and the Foundry. So, plenty to talk about tonight.
It's my baby.
But first, something we need to know first before we go any further. What did you cut your RPG baby teeth on? What did you first?
As a player, it was totally Robotech and Rifts from Palladium.
That's cool.
Yeah, those were. It was Robotech first, and then I think we found Rifts because there were 3 mostly naked women on the cover at the time. And we were like 13, right. me and my 2 buddies when we were like 12, 13. So we played Robotech because we already loved. We were going through our little anime phase, such as it existed in like 1991. And we found out there was a Robotech game. And we're like, well, we got to play that. That sounds awesome.
Cool.
And we loved it right away, even though I doubt we were playing right. And I still don't think I could understand or explain well how skill checks work in that Palladium classic system.
I ran it as well for some friends of mine. That was my first foray into the Palladium system. Robotech, and played a lot of it. And then eventually Rifts came out, and
how could you not jump on Rifts, man? It's so fun.
I was at the Gen Con where Simbita released Rifts that year.
Wow,
I was at that
that's
Gen Con and got my copy of Rifts signed. I still have it somewhere around
That's
here.
amazing. I got to meet him like 2 years ago, 2 Gen Cons ago maybe. When I was 14, I had called Palladium offices and interviewed him for like a school project. And like he took the call. I was on the phone with him for like an hour and a half at like 14. It was great. And I met him like 2 years ago. I talked to him. I was like, yeah, I work in the industry now and everything. He's like, oh yeah, I totally remember that call. I doubt he did, but he was very nice to make me think he did.
He's always been a very nice guy. When I ran to the Palladium booths over the years at Gen Con, yeah, he was one of those people you could always just walk up and talk to. And then, being an industry guy, he was always willing to talk to people like, yourself and myself that love to write. And at the time I was like, I'm going to be a journalist, I met him a couple years ago at a convention up here in Grand Rapids, Michigan called Grand Con. Same thing. Ran into him, and he remembers me and my group all fawning over him. So he said that first year that Rifts came out, there was like 8 of us, and we were all just there like a bunch of teenage girls, just like, sign my copy.
That's great.
I met up with Kevin Sabita as well, and Kevin Long, who was his main artist.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
At the time, some friends of us were making a fanzine called Protoculture Addicts.
Oh, nice.
So we went actually to Detroit to his place and talked to him and stuff, and it was kind of cool.
The rights for Robotech now are all crazy, right? Like everything got really
now you've got a Savage Worlds version. There's its own version on Drive-Thru RPG that I saw as well.
I heard about that too.
And still, of course, if you can find the original Palladium stuff. But eventually, I just got tired of Palladium. The mechanics were a bit too much for me. So.
But the books were gorgeous, especially for the day when black and white line art was mostly the best you were going to get. The books looked really great, and I loved just the design, which had less to do with Palladium and more to do with the Robotech setting. But
Kevin Long had a great illustration of a couple of those Samas.
From Rifts too. All
just floating over the ground.
And they had like the insert of the high gloss pages with like the painted art in the original Rifts book, where like no other books were really doing that at the time, and it was just like, wow, look at all this awesome stuff. Of course, now that's like the bare minimum standard for RPG art, right? But like for back then, and when you're 13, 14, it was like the most amazing thing you'd ever seen. So like as a player, that's where I started. And then obviously my first product writing as a professional was Sons of Fortune for Edge of the Empire for FFG. Cool. That was my very first job. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Stephan, you want to take the next question?
Sure. Let's see. So then the question, what or who inspired you to begin writing freelance, and why?
So I want to say I've told this story before elsewhere, but if you guys haven't heard it or your listeners haven't, I'm a writer because I broke my leg playing paintball. That's how I ended up here somehow. So I was a full-time bartender. I was like 26, 27 years old. I'd served in the military prior to that, the United States Navy. And my bar used to play a different bar all the time, paintball matches. So we were out there. It was the first match of the day. I was running one way. I was shooting a different way. I was running as fast as I could. My foot caught in a tree branch, twisted around while the rest of me kept going forward. It just broke the hell out of my leg.
Ouch.
And the thing about bartending is that there isn't really like sick pay. There isn't really like any sort of health care. Like you're kind of just on your own. And also like they're not going to hold your shift for you while you recover for 3 or 6 months or whatever. So I was basically out of a job and didn't know how I was going to pay rent. The one thing I was doing for fun at the time was a fan website called findingthenarrativepodcast.com, where we did Star Wars D20 fan RPG content, fan fiction, and fan comic books, which was like our big draw, right? So that was the thing I was doing for fun. So I had no skills. I was able to find artist friends. I was able to find website friends, but like there was a lot of other work to do that was just going to fall to me because I didn't have any of the hard things that I knew how to do, right? I didn't know how to build a website and I didn't know how to draw. So that left all the writing to me, which we just figured any idiot could do it. So I had been writing for this site from like probably only 2 or 3 years at that point and was very confused why George Lucas hadn't personally shown up at my house and offered me work. But now I was at home with a broken leg. I kind of enjoyed doing the writing for this website, and I didn't know how I was going to pay rent. So the only option left to me really was to go to college because my GI Bill would pay me cash, enough to pay rent. I was living pretty cheaply at the time. So they would pay rent while I went to college. I'm like, I'm just here for fun. As soon as my leg's fixed up or whatever, I'll go back to bartending full time. I'll catch on somewhere else, and it'll be fine. But so I decided to go to Columbia College Chicago, downtown Chicago, for the writing program because I'm like, hey, I'll get better at my hobby and get paid to do it while I'm here, and then I'll go back to bartending and everything will be fine. I went to the program. I was really intimidated by all these 19-year-olds. I'm like 29 or 30 at this point. And I'm real intimidated by all these 19-year-olds who I assume have known they wanted to be a writer since they were like 4 years old. And this just sort of occurred to me a few months ago as something fun to do, right? So I thought I was going to kind of be a joke in all these classes. But it turned out I had an ear for writing a little bit, and I was able to outwork a lot of 19-year-olds because, 19-year-olds tend to be idiots. I was a 19-year-old idiot, and I had forgotten that, like, oh, yeah, they're dumb. And they don't want to do anything. So I outworked a lot of them. I outworked a lot of them. I did good at what I was doing. And one of the things I was doing for Fandom Comics is going to those Star Wars Celebration conventions. So I go to all these, and if you're there, like the writers that work on the official stuff are pretty accessible. Like Kevin Sambita at Gen Con, right? But even more so, because a lot of them are just like wandering the floor checking out everything themselves, and maybe they have a panel or something later. So one of the guys that I struck up sort of I hesitate to say friendship, but like I followed him around like a creepy weirdo, was Sterling Hershey. Sterling Hershey, who's worked on all kinds of stuff for all versions of the Star Wars RPG and Genesys and all sorts of stuff. So I'd been following him around and for like 2 celebrations prior to this. So we kind of knew each other, and he knew what I was doing with Fandom Comics. And he sort of told me, like, I think the 2012 celebration in Orlando, he's like, hey, Fantasy Flight Games has the license now. It had just moved from WotC to FFG. Like, the announcement had just come out, and not much more than that. He's like, it just moved over, and they're going to do an open call for writers in like a few weeks. And I'm like, oh, sweet, I graduate from college in a few weeks in fiction writing. He's like, yeah, you and Ryan's one of the guys who worked on Fandom Comics with me. He's like, you guys should totally enter the open call and see what's up. And I could hear like the subtext of, and then leave me the fuck alone. But Sterling is like the nicest guy on the planet. He would never actually say that, but like I felt it. But so I was like, oh man, that's awesome, sweet. So only because of Sterling Hershey was I made really aware of this open call. Me and Ryan both submitted our samples. I wrote like a Rancor monster in old Warhammer Fantasy rules, and Ryan did, I think, like the Nexu from episode 2. And then I didn't hear anything for a year and a half and forgot about it and started looking for work bartending. But a year and a half later, I got an email from Sam Stewart, and he's like, hey, do you still want to work on Star Wars books? And I was like, hell yeah. And that was the Sons of Fortune job. So that's how that happened. It's a long story. Sorry.
No, dude, that's great.
That's the kind of story we like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of people around the way here, I'd like to skip a question here and go into from Darren West, one of our listeners, aka Darth Zorg. He asked us to ask you about the 4 F's of writing.
Sure. That's Darren being cheeky, I think. So Darren West, full disclosure, is one of my students at the Adventure Writing Academy and a good friend that I've known from the Gamer Nation conventions and such for years now, and a talented writer in his own right. But the 4 F's are something that it's actually a system I used to write cover letters, which is something you do a lot as a writer when you're out looking for work and such. But people do it in business all the time and stuff too, right? Looking for work, there's going to be a cover letter on it. Nowadays, I think it gets posted into the text of the email rather than being like its own document. But whatever. The 4 F's are how I write cover letters, and basically they're 4 questions, and each question gets a paragraph, and obviously it all has to fit on one page. So it's just who the fuck are you? Or no, it's not. It's what the fuck is this? Who the fuck are you? How the fuck are you qualified, and why the fuck would you want to work here? So those are the 4 F's.
That's awesome.
That's how I write a cover letter, and I teach my students that the same way, and the AWA students. And Darren himself, though, actually uses it like a slightly modified version of it to question a lot of his writing, and it helps him like improve in the revision process. It's just a really clever way of perverting my like little joke for cover letter writing. But yeah, those are the 4 F's. So that you can learn all that and more at Adventure Writing Academy, kids.
There you go.
Awesome. Good.
The 3 R's, now you got the 4 F's.
That's right.
Speaking of the Adventure Writing Academy, we've got a couple questions about that from
Sure.
Chris's own daughter. Chris, you want to read those?
Yes, Alexi. So proud of her. Love her to death. We went and saw a movie last night, and interesting experience. But that's another story, another time. Mm-hmm. So she's really excited about learning more about what you guys are doing there in the AWA. And her first question is, what would you say is your biggest piece of advice to someone just starting out?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is read a lot and write a lot. And I mean, you have to be doing that at a minimum, and that never stops. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't get to stop reading because I've like quote unquote made it or something like that. Like, first of all, RPG writing tends to be like the entry level position of professional writing, at least in the nerd world. Like, the bar for entry is a little lower than it is for novelists or short story writers. Mm-hmm. So I still have to read a lot. I still have to write as close to every day as I can manage. Nobody actually writes every day. If they say it, they're lying, but you should try. So I would say that's number one. The second thing is find someone close to your level, but that has similar aspirations to you, and make them a writing partner. I'm a big part of the reason I'm the writer I am today is because I had my buddy Ryan Brooks from Fandom Comics from 2005 till maybe 2015. It's like a 10-year period. Me and him read everything the other wrote. We criticized it ruthlessly and helped each other get better. And, they say iron sharpens iron, right? Like, you need someone else to help you grow. It's hard to do it by yourself. It's hard. Having a mentor, somebody a little ahead of you, is great. But honestly, having someone who's also hungry for the same goals you are, and that's at about the same level of competency you are, they're going to have different strengths. But, just like... But
you can feed off of each other.
Right.
Okay.
Keep each other motivated. You keep each other honest. So I would say having a partner early on, not necessarily somebody you're collaborating with to write stuff together, although that's fun too, but someone who could read your stuff and someone whose stuff you will read. You will both learn so much from that process that I can't understate how important that was for me anyway. And then the other piece of advice I have is finish. Don't just start a story every week and never finish it. Get to the end. And then when you get to the end, go start all over and try to improve it and revise it and edit it and make it as best as you know how. The RPG metaphor I use for writing is that you don't get your XP until after the thing is completely done. Mm-hmm. You don't get any XP for starting. So you get XP for finishing. And then every once in a while, after a few things, something's going to click in your brain, and you're going to level up and get better and stop making the same mistakes you've noticed in a bunch of other things. You'll notice you get better. So those would be some of the big major things, especially early on, that I would recommend for her.
Cool. You guys want to round robin it? Somebody want to take the next one?
Yeah. I'll go with the next one. In general, do you think putting yourself in a writing routine is beneficial, such as writing for an hour every day at the same time? etc.
Yeah, there's people who do that. I think they're all serial killers. But like I haven't met a writer that organized, I'll be honest with you. But I wish I could be in one of those guys who's like, well, I'm going to sit down today and I'm going to write for exactly 47 and a half minutes, and then I have dinner, and then I'm going to, wash my hands for 30 seconds and then take a shower. Like, I don't know anyone who budgets their day like that well and in this business. I'm sure they exist and I just don't know them, but that's not advice I could give. I think you got to go with, I think obviously having a routine helps with anything. I compare writing a lot to exercise, which looking at me, you could tell I'm not so great at being diligent about either. But I think they're very similar in that it takes discipline. It takes, for exercise, I always say what it really takes is getting out my front door with exercise clothes on. For writing, it takes sitting down at the desk, having the thing open, having Facebook minimized, and being at the desk doing the work. Once I start actually typing, like writing is easy once I start doing the work. But carving out the time and actually sitting my ass in the chair and doing the work is the part that is inconsistent and hard to do. Now, I've been doing this a long time, at this point, since 2005 at least, right? So I'm fortunate in that my college education has taught me how to produce words on demand. I could sit down and just start writing when it's time to write. I don't have to wait for like a muse to come from afar to like spark my imagination and let me write. I could just sit down and go. That's something that anybody could learn how to do, but it takes a lot of time and practice to learn how to do it. So I would say in that regard, not having a routine helps, right? But in my college experience, they would bring us into class. We'd go through class, and then we had the classes were 4 hours long for one writing class. So you'd be in there, you'd be reading work aloud, you'd be talking about writing, you'd be noticing things that writers do and having discussion. And then all of a sudden the teacher would be like, all right, take out your notebooks and your pencils and whatever, and take a place, and that just means like in your mind's eye, imagine there's a place. And, they take us through this like 10-minute guided meditation of imagining this place and filling it with characters and saying something is happening there and getting you in the zone. And then they'd be like, all right, start writing, like go. And you'd have to like produce on demand. And then after like 10 or 15 minutes, everybody's going to read what they just wrote to like a whole classroom full of people. So there's no like, nothing came to me. I don't know. Like you couldn't do that. That was you had to come up with something. Like something had to, and it does. Like in the years. Sorry, my door buzzer just went off. But in the years I went to school there was never a time where somebody didn't come up with something. It just like didn't happen. So literally anyone can learn to produce on demand. I think a lot of it is just there has to be enough pressure to shut up the internal editor that's telling you what you're thinking of writing isn't good enough. And usually a deadline is what'll do that, right? My normal writing day will be like 500 to 1,500 words. That's like a normal day for me. In like real person terms, that's like single-spaced 1 to 3 pages. That's like a day's work for me. Okay. But that said, I've had days right up against the deadline where I've produced 9,000 words in a single day. Which is like 18 pages in one sitting. So necessity is the mother of all invention. Mm-hmm. That's because when you really need to do something, all the other little voices that are saying, no, you could do better, or no, that's not good enough, they shut up and you just produce because you have to. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I don't know if that quite answers the question, but basically a routine's great if you could stick to it, but also just being able to sit down and get it in. I know a lot of people are busy. Not everybody like me has their whole like life built around this where I can write. Mm-hmm. I could have like a 12-hour day, 7 days a week to just sit here and write. I know a lot of people, a lot of my students who have real jobs have to like find a half an hour here or an hour there. It's really going to depend on you and your life, where this ranks and what's important to you and how hard it is for you to find like a little bit of quiet time alone to do it.
Gotcha. Cool.
Stephan?
Right. Cool.
Yep. All right. Thank you for that. Next question is, how does someone know when they're finally found their writing style, when they finally found their writing style?
Sure. So in AWA, what we call writing style, we refer to it as voice. And that's sort of like the unique fingerprint that lets people know that this is you writing this. And I would say that you never really know when you found your voice. And your voice isn't also just one thing. J.K. Rowling, who did the Harry Potter books, those books are written in a very specific way. There's a very specific Harry Potter voice. Right? That a lot of people could probably recognize. The Hobbit has a very, very specific voice that a lot of people could recognize and parody and mimic and imitate, right? But J.K. Rowling has written other things that sound nothing like Harry Potter. She wrote a detective book, a noir detective book that sounds nothing like Harry Potter. So voice can change. Professionals learn to sort of warp and alter their voice to fit certain projects. As an RPG writer, I have to work on a lot of books where I'm working with 8 or 9 other authors, and all of our voices have to kind of sound the same as if one person had written the book, right? And some of that's up to our editor to make sure that they smooth out any weird idiosyncrasies between how I write and how Jason Marker writes or Sterling writes. But some of it is just that, like, we all have read a bunch of RPGs and we know what RPGs like sound like, you know what I mean?
Oh, gotcha.
So we're able to sort of adopt that voice. Now, I have fiction work where it sounds very different. Some original fiction stuff, some public. I have military fiction stuff that sounds very different from my fantasy fiction stuff, and there might be some like little commonalities people could pick out on because it is all coming from the same brain, right? But I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself into thinking you only have one writing style in you. I think humans are complicated, and different projects are going to have different sort of requirements for what things need to sound like, and it's okay to experiment with that. And what you will find is like what your current professional range is, right? Like what your wheelhouse is. Like, oh, I could do sort of this horror noir stuff really well, but if I'm trying to write love scenes and stuff, I get tripped up. I don't know, just as a weird example. So you'll sort of find like what you're good at and what you're not. But the only way you find it is by trying it all, right? So gotcha. I'd say stick with what interests you the most, and don't limit yourself. And sometimes try something unexpected because you might learn something from it.
Cool. I think I'm gonna combine these next two questions kind of together.
Dude, you are my brother from another mother. I swear, I was just thinking that same thing.
So Lexi wants to know about world building, and she has an interesting spin on this. Do you start off with a character and build the world around it, or is building a world more important than the character? How do you go about doing your world building per se?
Sure. So I've done it both ways. For different projects, and I think the answer is the project is going to kind of tell you what needs to come first more often than not. In writing, it's art, man, so there is no one size fits all answer. I wish I could just tell you, well, you just do 1, then 2, then 3 and you're good, but like almost nothing is that simple, unfortunately, in this field. So for instance, I'm hopefully going to do a Genesys product about this one day, but I have a short story collection that used to be up on my Patreon called The Werelings of Blackwater Castle. It's about a mother-daughter like Viking knight team that ride around on flying owlbears, killing werewolves and like other were creatures. It's awesome and great fun.
Well, can't wait for that to come out. Jesus.
Yeah, that's something it's on like the back burner of like this would be fun to do as a Genesys setting. Because I already have like some maps and like all this other stuff. I have like 3 short stories in the series, but
it also Advantageous Threat.
It also make a good home, right? Like the Foundry is probably a good home for like this setting to exist in. But anyway, So for that, the characters definitely came first.
Oh, okay.
And as I learned that specific short story, like the world started appearing around them based on what I needed to happen in the story. So it's like, well, I need X to happen, so the world needs to be this way, so that happens.
So it's almost kind of a sandbox, if you will. Like role-playing terms, right? Sandboxing it, kind of.
Yeah, well, the opposite, I would say, because that one was so character-focused. But then something like Ready Fight is all world-building first, right? It's like the 4 different settings I introduced. There's not a lot of character there. It's mostly setting with just enough character to give a personality to the settings, right? Like Rumble City has a few people that get mentioned. The Wrestling Heroes Federation or whatever I call it, that has some character going on there. Even the Qianlong Emperor in the Kung Fu setting. So, but in those, definitely like the idea of the setting came first, and how do I create a sandbox, as you said, to sort of make it possible for people to do a lot of the things that they want to do in a Kung Fu setting or in a wrestling setting or, whatever it may be. So I've seen it work both ways. The project's probably going to determine what you do first. And also the other trick is that no one has to know which one you did first. So you could just work on whichever one is interesting to you first. And that's whatever's more fun to you is usually the answer of what to do first. And do that. And then when you start running into walls or don't know what else to do, switch to the other one and then go back. Go back and forth until you have both kind of well developed, and then go back again and change anything that doesn't work anymore. And no one's going to know, because the only person who sees it is you until you show it to someone else. So
Cool. Appreciate that. That's good. Good information, everybody. So I'm not going to pronounce this guy's name. No, not so much. Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was asking. I actually would like you to thank your daughter for those questions. Those were great questions.
Yes.
Well, we'll all thank her. Thanks, Lexi. Appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
And maybe
All
she
right,
will
well-
be enrolling in the academy.
We'd love to have her.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Thanks, Tony.
So one of our listeners, he's got that name that Chris just loves to stumble over. He lives up in the Great White North near
Michael
Stephan.
Michaelishan? Like, this isn't a hard name.
Nope, it's Michael Miklishin.
Oh, I was
Michael
close.
Miklishin. Oh, I said it right. Damn it. All right.
There you go. Because you weren't thinking about it. He's a fellow
Exactly.
Canadian, eh?
Yeah. He wrote us several questions, particularly about the Foundry.
Good.
And at the end of it, I'd like to, the one question that we skipped previously, I'd like to go back to. But he's got, his first one here is, what is your favorite community-made Genesys setting?
So luckily, these questions I don't have such long-winded answers to. But so my favorite community settings, I've only played in two that aren't my own, and I'm not going to vote for my own. But right now, Starkana and the Power of the Vril adventure, I played at both of those early versions of them before the Foundry came out at Gamer Nation Con last April. And they're both my favorite because they're both amazing. Starkana, I guess, is the only one that's officially actually a setting, because Power of the Vril is really just an adventure. But they're both rich worlds, great places for sandbox play or creating your own sort of stuff. But what Chris Hunt with Power of the Vril and Phil Mazewski and all his buddies at Studio 404 have done with Starkana, those are both great products. So,
Cool.
Yeah, those are the two standouts for me.
Awesome.
Okay. Stephan?
Yes. Next question is a little bit along the same line. What is your favorite community-made custom rule set? And he goes, one of mine? Smiley face.
So unfortunately,
I think what he means there is the community as a group, not just the Foundry stuff.
Right. No, and it's Phil's Fallout hack, like the original proto sort of originator of the whole Foundry itself and of Genesys as a game, even.
Right. That was really where they got the idea.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Genesys
I got
could
to
have the wheels hacked off and put on something
Right.
else. Or Star Wars.
Phil ran it for Sam again at a Gamer Nation Con. He ran it for Sam Stewart, and Sam really had a good time. Apparently, where he's like, "Wow, I should do a whole product where we could support people hacking the rule system." So you got to give it up for Fallout Genesys, or none of us would be here, right?
There we go.
Nice.
So, and then this next one, in your mind, what makes the Genesys rule system special, revolutionary?
So to me, this is an easy question. It's the multiple axes of success and failure. There's not really a lot like it, or at least wasn't a lot like it prior to Genesys. And so really that and this emphasis on improvisational community storytelling, that you're interpreting the dice in the moment as opposed to I mean, I know we have a lot of charts in this game for spending dice results, but the rules make it pretty clear the best uses of dice results are the ones you just come up with in the moment.
Yeah.
So I think the way it's literally letting the dice tell the story, I think it lends itself to improvisational, unplanned games better than any system I've ever run with as much crunch as it brings to the table, right? There are some like really, really light rules-light games that can do this well too, but it puts a lot of the impetus for moving the story on the players. And the dice seem to do a lot of the work for me. I don't have to decide when something's going to go bad. The dice will tell me. I just have to decide why it went bad
and what
or why
bad.
it's going.
Yeah,
right.
And for me, with that part, it brings the table together more. I haven't seen as many players so engaged in a game, wanting to contribute to somebody else's misfortune or fortune. Right? It's good.
It's one of the more collaborative table environments like you'll have.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Someone
want to know
else's
what your friends... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say someone else's turn can be almost more exciting than your own. Because you'll shout anything to spend their dice results. Like
exactly.
You have no emotional connection to what happens to their character.
That's right, Daryl. When you roll that to spare,
Yeah.
because we know you're going to.
That's it. Everyone like sometimes leans over and say, "What does Matt have? You know, what did he roll? You know,
Exactly.
like." And I think some of my favorite moments, whenever it was either Tony or Chris running a Star Wars game, like it's not where I chose something off the table to spend my advantage or whatever. It's like coming up with my own stuff.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, cool. I remember that.
Yeah, for sure. And my favorite thing to do when I'm GMing is if there's a red die, a challenge die in a pool, I love to show everyone the despair symbol. Say, if this comes up, X is going to happen. And it just creates this tension at the table while we're waiting for this roll, right? Because it's like, I know what horrible thing's going to happen if that despair pops up. And if it pops up, the whole table freaks. It's like, everybody gets loud. It makes it, you don't really get that in like your traditional D20 games or a lot of, not quite the same way, right? It's a real unique sort of system, but I think the multiple X is a failure in this sort of community engagement that it brings just within the table itself, to say nothing of the wider community, right? But I think that's what makes it so special.
Cool.
So Michael's last question here is more of a speculative one. It says, how do you see the system evolving in the short and long term, and what limits, if any, do you see the rules hitting?
So I think what you're going to see a lot of is exploring what the skills themselves do and what they do in relationship to the different settings, right? Like, how different is survival in a sci-fi setting versus a fantasy setting versus a modern day setting or streetwise? And like what, so I think what you're going to see a lot happen is it's going to explode with information tables and ways to sort of use these skills in different settings. And I think that's going to be both a good thing for the game and a bad thing, because as we just discussed, you don't necessarily want to get overly reliant on tables. What I think are great about tables is that a GM could read them, it can give them ideas, it can put something in their brain, and then they can pull it out from their brain at the table. What I would hate to see is a GM with like 1,000 pages of PDF printouts of every book ever made from the Foundry, trying to find that one table that has the thing he likes. After every check. So I think the limit is definitely to what a GM can pull from out of thin air or out of their ass, as it might be.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I actually run the game, I rarely, if ever, have a book in front of me. It's pre-gens, maybe some adversary decks, dice, and a GM screen for the crit tables. Those are the only tables I actually look at. Otherwise, it's like if I don't know the rule, we're going to make one up right now that seems to work. Because every mechanic should just be spend some results to make the thing happen, or set a difficulty and make a check, pick a skill. Like those are your only two choices as GM, right? So it's not that complicated a system. I think the limit comes when you're trying to make the system something it's not. If you're trying to move away from the narrative concept, if you're trying to make it a bean counting game, I think those are projects they'll probably become unsuccessful. But I think for the most part, the only limit is like, what can you imagine the system doing? Because it's pretty versatile. So
yeah, it is. It really is.
Well, thank you, Michael, for the questions. Appreciate you listening, and we still have a couple more before we get into Ready Fight. A couple that we skipped over.
All right, we'll say it to Michael. Merci, Michael.
So the one that I have here, any advice for Genesys Foundry contributors, whether it's a new setting, existing setting, or an adventure, for either any of those? If you have any advice for people, what would be like the big one? What would it be?
A lot of it is advice I just gave Alexi, right?
Okay.
So a lot of that can apply to them. I'm not going to repeat all that stuff, but finding a writing partner is key. Just doing work is key. Practicing, right? But specific to the Foundry, I would say find yourself a niche that isn't like already staked out, and there are so many, right? Because the Foundry only has 20 some odd products up there. So there's a lot of ground that no one's really laid a claim to. So find one that aligns with passions and interests you already have. Don't do something just because it's new. Do something because it's new and you're excited about it. I think that would be my number one piece of advice. Like obviously, if you try to do a kung fu book after I just released Ready Fight, like you might find there's not as much interest for that. Or if you try to market it as Ready Fight Part 2, I might get a little upset at you. But, depending on how much you rip right out of my book, right? But
calling in an airstrike then.
That's right.
Hey, I still have friends. No.
But it's different. I called mine Fight Ready.
Right, well, and that's fine. Like, I think someone else put out a community resource that's real sort of Street Fighter 2 fighter game based. I think that's out there in the community somewhere. I don't think it's onto the Foundry yet, but it's a gorgeous product. It looks great. Somebody pointed it out to me like 2 days before the Foundry was going to open up. I was like, oh, cool. I better make sure it doesn't look like we wrote the same book. Yeah, I wasn't that worried because it was all parallel development, right? I hadn't heard of this while I was working. He might have seen what I did beforehand just because there was a very early version of Ready Fight, like a 15, 20-page version, was put out on my Patreon like a year and a half ago. So it's possible he was influenced by what I did, but I don't know that. What he did looked really sharp. I liked it a lot, but ultimately I wasn't too concerned about it, right? But yeah, find something that excites you and work on it. And the other thing I guess I would say from a practical standpoint is don't put like a 300-page thing up there because you're going to feel the need to charge like $20 for it or something. And honestly, it's just a lot. A lot of people don't want to read 300 pages of fan content, which is kind of what Foundry stuff is, right? It's community content is the proper word. Yeah. But maybe aim at like a short to medium length product, something between like 5 and 40 pages. Aim at that. Aim to charge under $5. Make it something you're excited about. Make it something that doesn't look like every single product up there or stuff you're starting to see repeat stuff of. Find your own little sort of niche territory to stake out, and go for it. And if you have friends to help you, like even better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, Chris, you want to do the last one here?
Yeah, I got it. So, I saw this thing in Dragon Magazine 184. I just was thinking about it. Like you've created NPCs for the Beanstalk. How do you build an NPC? And what I'm referencing is this 7-sentence NPC thing from Dragon Magazine. How do you build an NPC, Keith?
How do I go about it specifically?
Yeah, how do you go about it?
So again, it's going to depend on what I'm building it for. If I'm building it for an adventure, then like the needs of the story that the adventure is telling, it's probably going to dictate a lot about that character before I really get into the stats too much. But when I'm doing like a listing, like I did for Shadows of the Beanstalk, then it becomes very much where I'm trying to have NPCs that occupy sort of community niches in that setting, in that world. So like if you're doing it for Star Wars, you're like, well, I know we need stormtroopers. I know we need this. I know we need this.
Gotcha.
I worked on allies and adversaries. I did the whole scumbag section, the scoundrels and all that.
Oh, cool.
So I've done a ton of adversaries for FFG in the past year and a half, it feels like. So my first step is like, usually I have to name the thing. I have to make a list of names, usually just because FFG wants to see the list of names and be like, okay, that's diverse enough or whatever. That's not all gang members, or it's not all military people. It's a good mix of things found in this environment. Usually they'll be like, how about this and how about that? And I want to see a teacup giraffe in there, whatever it might be. Whatever Sam says. So I'll start there with a list. And once I have a name, then it's a matter of deciding if it's a minion, a rival, a nemesis first, right? And then from there, I can usually... I like to write the 100, 150 words, whatever it is, first, the flavor.
Okay.
Because the flavor helps me sort of define what space this character occupies, like what role they have in the world. And once I've sort of nailed that down, then I find it's easier for me to create talents and abilities and set up the stats and the skill selections to reflect that rather than the opposite. But plenty of people, I'm sure, do it the other way too. I think it's just going to vary person to person to how you, which end of that you do first, or how much you're co-developing. I'm sure there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, or whatever the phrase is.
More than one way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what do we have next?
Well, Stephan, you want to lead us into the next round of questions? What we've got is a group of questions about Ready Fight itself.
Yeah, specifically about his little baby there, Ready Fight.
Yeah.
So, so the first one, why an unarmed combat book? Really?
Sure.
Yeah. Why? Do you really need it? Come on.
I mean, I think number one, it's awesome, right? Like, number one, I don't know how many tables have you guys been at that didn't have at least one dude who was like, so I want to be Bruce Lee, or I want to be, Kung Fu guy, or whatever, right? Every table's got the one guy who's like, I'm going to be Kung Fu guy. I know we're in like a military like shootout setting, and everybody else has guns, but like I'm Snake Eyes. Like I'm going to be the one guy who just wants to punch and kick people instead. So I know that guy's at every table, every game. So I thought, like, this is for the Foundry. I should do something that no matter what setting you're playing in, you could pick up my book and get something out of it for your existing campaign. Or if, you want to start up a new campaign, I give you some ideas for that too. But I really wanted to make sure it was just as important for me that you could adapt it to I don't care if you're doing Terranoth or Android or one of the other 4 primary settings they introduced in the core book, or something wild on your own, or even Star Wars. Like Ready Fight can work with Star Wars too, if you're running a campaign that fits it, right? Not every campaign's gonna. So that was a big part of why. Also, I'm a big nerd for mixed martial arts, for like UFC and all that stuff. It was something me and my dad did together. My dad passed away kind of right when I started writing an earlier version of this, not long after that. So it was something me and him did together. We would go to the events. We'd watch the pay-per-views. We were both really educated fans about it. For the Navy, I was an intel analyst, so I'm an analytical person by nature. So I'm that guy who could like tell you what Joe Rogan's about to say before he says it while they're doing the commentary for the fight. Like I'm a good 5 seconds ahead of Joe Rogan being allowed to talk. So I'm really interested in this, and it was a passion of mine as a fan anyway. And I thought I had a good take on it, like mechanically, for how things could change and adapt to add some depth. And it was also a part of Genesys I looked at and said, this is not good enough. This isn't really representative of enough for me. For some games, what's there is going to be just fine, because unarmed combat is going to be a very minor part of your setting if it occurs at all, right? But like at the same time, it's a lot of bar brawls, right? That's like a trope of any RPG setting where it's like you don't have your weapons and you're in a bar fight. So I felt like that was something to do, and I feel like there's a lot of people who have a lot of fondness for classic martial arts films, for fight sports, and then when I was putting the book together, I'm not personally a big professional wrestling guy, but it fit the mechanics so well already that I was like, well, this has a bunch of fans. It's definitely something I should include. So that sort of gave rise to these 4 different settings, and the book wrote so quickly, guys. I wrote the whole thing in like maybe 8 or 9 weeks. When I got a draft out in that short period of time. So it's something, and again, this is one of those things where it's like people say write what you know, and that's why they say it, because when you already know a lot, you don't have to research a lot, and you also, if it's already up here, you have a good take on it right out the gate, and it could just spill right out of you. It came out really easy, more easier than a lot of Star Wars stuff, which I also know an ungodly amount about. This came out really, but part because I'd already wrote some of the central mechanical concept like a year earlier and had time to like think about them before. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I guess I went with an Unarmed Combat Supplement first. I also happen to have a lot of art already for this project from a buddy of mine, Sean Vrabel, who did all the interior art for the book that's hand drawn.
Oh, I love that art. That style is so great.
Cool.
Yeah.
His work is so dynamic. Everybody feels like they're moving. So I love it. There's just a feel of movement and speed and power and all of his and attitude and all of his images. So
that's important.
We're bringing 2 more original Sean pieces to the product. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting on 1 more piece from Sean, and we also have a new Rumble City map. We have a huge upgrade to the horrible, ugly hand-drawn map that's in there right now. So that'll get replaced. So that stuff's going to get pushed through soon, and if you've already downloaded Ready Fight, you'll be able to check drive through. It'll give you a notification that says there's an update ready to download, and you'll just get it automatically.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get that out in the next couple weeks at least. It's been on my desk for way too long though.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Awesome. To do this one first.
It feels like. It feels like you may have answered the second question. Your prime inspiration, I'm pretty sure that's the UFC, right? Yeah.
Yeah, although there's literally a whole page in the back of inspirations, right?
Absolutely.
Inspirational works. So,
because I know that in some systems, the grappling rules or any kind of unarmed combat, people cringe at it, especially the GM's like, oh no, you want to grapple? No, not in this system, please.
How do you do it? Right.
I think the problem there a lot of the time is that there's not a lot of RPG writers who have taken like a jiu-jitsu or a collegiate wrestling course. Yeah, but specifically for the grappling even, right? Like none of it makes sense to a lot of people. Certainly didn't in the 90s because there wasn't like the resources we have now with MMA where there's this vocabulary that a lot of people know now about grappling. There's military combatives programs that a lot of people go through that explain a lot of this stuff as well. So I think the knowledge base of the average player about grappling is a lot higher now than it was at D&D 3.5 or whatever other horrible grappling you might be like thinking of in your mind. So I think that allowed me to get a little more technical about it, but also I think I had enough theoretical knowledge about how grappling kind of works in the real world to abstract it enough where it's like it's not something that's not Genesys anymore. It's not something that's so like granular and bean counting and like, oh, I'm in the half guard now, so that means I get this bonus to just this attack. Like, only to the Kimura do I get a bonus or whatever. Like it wasn't like that detailed where like this doesn't feel like Genesys anymore.
It's not ninjas and super spies.
Right, yeah.
I think what you did with it, I think
to a weird zoomed in level. I tried to find a happy medium because I feel like I was one of the few people that understood a little bit about game design and Genesys and a little bit about grappling in the real world and how to represent it. Yeah. Some of my early readers as well, like David Mail was, or is, I should say. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. So I had a little bit of help from some early readers to make sure both that the positives and negatives I was giving certain abilities sort of reflected what those things are supposed to do for real, and double checking my terminology and stuff like that.
Cool.
Nice.
So then our next question.
Grappling rules are always a nightmare. I agree.
I know, and I think the way that you did it with the whole make a check. If you succeed, you're at an advantage. Then you succeed again and get another level of like a superior advantage. And then you go for the takedown or those kinds of things. I think the way that you've abstracted it really captures grappling and that, but it feels very Genesys as well.
Right.
So what?
Yeah,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, my goal was just to make sure that it was that someone who knew nothing about how grappling works could still intuit what was happening.
Oh yeah.
I'm improving my control over this person.
Mm-hmm.
But also someone who knows a lot about grappling could be like, oh, well, if I have advantageous position, that's probably being in the guard or being in the half guard or something like that. But if I have superior position, that's probably side controller or full. Like they can interpret what kind of means what.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to make it so that it worked for both groups of people and tried to make it so that it was simple and easy to understand. It didn't really take up more than a page.
Yeah, I think you hit it out of the park with that. To be honest,
thanks.
That was good.
I appreciate it.
So if somebody a player wants to say, oh, I want to do these brawl skills, I want to bring grappling, I want to bring striking into your world or your setting, GM, what suggestion would you give to the GM to say yes, but?
You're right. So the first thing I think the GM needs to look at is it just one player? Like how much of a focus is this going to be both in the campaign and for that player? If this is something a player just wants to dabble in a world that's mostly full of lasers or guns or magic axes or something like that, you might not want to use both skills. You might want to just leave it as just brawl, or you might want to make it brawl for all the striking and athletics for all the grappling. Possibly.
That makes sense.
There is a sidebar in the book somewhere that talks a little bit about this.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like I'm just giving you completely new information here, but like I'm making stuff up that I didn't think to put in the book. But I think it really depends just because of XP economy, right?
Yep.
You don't want to penalize a player to have to buy all these special moves and abilities with XP and 2 different skills with XP and all this stuff if it's only going to be sort of a minor part of what that character does, or if unarmed combat itself isn't a central theme of the campaign, right? Because even with all the special moves that I provide and the different kicks and elbows and knees and takedowns and submissions, even with all that stuff, they're not as good as like a pistol. They're not as good as like a rocket launcher. So they're not really built to necessarily be balanced against that, which is fine. I don't know. I mean, they can be if you get like later in the book and you get into like the signature abilities and stuff. Yeah. You could really crank up a punch. But I think you should really like read the book first, be aware of what's going on and how the XP economy works for that character, and don't penalize them to buy into all this stuff that they're not going to be able to like have as many maybe big moments with at the table as like your guy who just buys into Gunslinger or something like that. So I'd be aware of that. I'm not saying it can't work or shouldn't work, because the other thing is make sure your player understands how to play this character. Because if you look at a lot of the unarmed attacks, they have a lot of statuses that they can inflict, right?
Yep.
You want to be generating some advantage with these attacks. So even if you don't do much damage, you can still control lock a lot of players with a lot of adversaries with these moves, right? So you could go to the big bad evil guy and you could get him concussed, staggered, or ensnared, or there's a few different things you could do that are going to really help your team. And as long as the player understands, like, okay, I'm not going to knock out the orc with a kick because he's like 6 feet tall or whatever, but I can tie him up, make him so he can't spend an action, and help delay his acting until my team catches up. Like if they're okay with what the role is, which in gaming terms it would be like a control class, a controller, as long as they understand that, I think that's another thing to make sure you're on the same page about. But I think it could be okay. It's like anything else. It's like actually any community content, period. If you're going to start mixing and matching, make sure you know what you're mixing and matching and talk with your players about what the expectations are. Let them tell you what their expectations are. Have a strong session 0, right?
Right.
I think that's really the key.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, next question is, do you have any advice for GMs on when to use the fighter size optional rules?
Yeah, I do. So again, I do get into this a little bit in the book. The fighter size rules, I didn't want to create like a whole new version of silhouette rules, but basically all human-sized characters are silhouette 1 as of the rules, which means that if your character is 5'7" and is fighting someone who's 6'6", you're both silhouette 1. There is no mechanical advantage whatsoever for size, which to me seems silly. So I created these fighter size rules to sort of address that in hopefully a somewhat economical way, without bogging down the table or slowing down the action. Now, when do I think you should use these rules? Not in every fight, full stop. Like, they're not for every encounter. I think where they matter the most is for tournament setting, which is one of my settings in the book. So they matter most when you're doing professional fights like boxers or UFC fighters, like in a cage. There's rules in the game for running one of these tournament style settings. And I think there they matter a lot because it's one of the tropes of that setting as well, right? And it's also one-on-one combat. So I think that's where they matter the most when you're in that kind of environment, that kind of a combat encounter. If I'm doing like a Jackie Chan style kung fu setting, I'm probably going to mostly ignore them unless I happen to throw like a giant brute at them or something like that, right? Okay. And even then, I might abstract the rules to not pay so much attention to the fighter size of everyone else. I might just be like, this guy gets boosts to attack or whatever. Unless one of my players starts taking some of these size-related talents, right? Like strapping or the rangy fighter. There's like 2 or 3 talents in the book that really take advantage of fighter size. And when I made those rules, I was thinking of them mostly in the context of here's stuff for the tournament fighter setting people that they'll really like. They're called things that are like well-known names for like Giant Slayer and stuff like that. Where I grew up, actually, there was a guy, Keith Hackney, who was a pro UFC fighter. He was known as the Giant Slayer. But cool. Yeah, so he it was in Rosellas, where his schools. It was like 2 blocks from where I lived for a while. But yeah, so there are a few talents, and if somebody's using those talents, you should reward them when they're fighting someone and make sure that stuff comes into play, right? Not necessarily every combat encounter, but sometimes. I think they're all pretty cheap talents, so don't feel the need to work it into every single combat encounter.
Right. Gotcha. All right, we got next, Stephan.
Next up, we have, what part of the book are you most proud of?
So the aforementioned grappling rules, I think, for me, they felt like a real coup to work those out in a way that seems to make sense, and that isn't like 12 pages or it's like own separate book, right? Mm-hmm. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the talent diversity in that book. There's a lot of like individual talents where I'm happy. I really liked the way I set it up where I didn't have to do a separate unarmed weapon for like every kick and punch under the sun. You could just combine them with spinning, jumping, and some of these other like strike modifier weapons, talents rather, and you could have like a whole different weapon. I thought that was a good idea. There's a lot of stuff that in the book I was real happy with. The rules for getting knocked out and knocked down I thought were fun for the tournament settings. I think I could see those adding a lot of play. I really liked that I was able to work some of the animal kung fu styles into the book.
Yep.
That was I probably spent more time researching that than any other single thing in the book, because it was the one thing where like I had never taken a kung fu class. I'm aware of these different animal styles, but like I better make sure I get it right. So I went down this like deep rabbit hole of YouTube videos from like kung fu guys, just like breaking down styles and moves, and
they have significantly long histories.
Yeah, right.
A lot of major differences.
Yeah. So that was a lot of work, but I think it paid off. I also, like, as a UFC guy, my first instinct is like, well, you can't punch someone with your hand like this in leopard style. You're gonna break your hand, like, for sure. So there's definitely like some rules in there that make that a risk, right? Like, if you miss with one of these strikes, you're going to really hurt your hand. And obviously, if I had the chance down the road to do a Kung Fu setting expansion book, there would definitely be talents you could take to reduce the risk of breaking your hand. Or you could just wear gloves and stuff like that, which also help. There's some equipment, right, in there that can reduce the risk of breaking. Yeah, there's wraps, there's gloves, there's a few different things. Yeah. Equipment-wise, which, let me tell you, that was a challenge too. Be like, so it's an unarmed combat book. Let's talk equipment. Like, well, they don't need anything. That's the whole point. They don't need anything.
Which, that's a nice segue. That's actually a nice segue into my next question here. Well, our next question: do you need to take down unarmed gear to do a takedown? Because the way that you've set it up is you spend XP to buy your quote unquote unarmed gear, which are a punch, a kick, takedowns, and such. So do you?
Right.
Do you need it?
So the answer is no, because the generic unarmed attack has the knockdown ability.
Cool.
And if you're using the generic unarmed attack, you can use it, and if you have a success, trigger to advantage, a knockdown can certainly be interpreted as a takedown. So no, everyone can do it with the generic unarmed attack that everyone has from the core rulebook. Just like they can throw a knockout punch, right? Of course, if you buy the takedown, you're going to be able to do it a lot better. You're going to be able to have some additional effects, but that represents your character having taken some training in maybe judo or Roman Greco wrestling, or just American collegiate freestyle wrestling or something like that. So you're going to have a lot more options with your takedown. You're going to be able to be a lot more intentional about that takedown, but the answer is no. Anyone can technically do one for sure. The generic unarmed ability attack, I guess I should call it. It's pretty versatile in how it can be used. Mm-hmm. It's just not very good, as most of us know, because the crit rating is 5.
Yes.
And the damage is it's +0, right?
Right. It's so your brawl.
Brawn and damage.
Your brawn, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's not doing much, but in lieu of nothing, it's not so bad.
That's true. All right, Tony, take us out, buddy. Got our last question here.
The final question is actually one that I wrote because of the final little bit there. Any suggestions for creating mystical moves like those seen in fighting video games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, or even Kung Fu Panda?
Sure. So there is a section in there about ki powers, or chi powers, if you will. And I believe like a chi fireball is one of the moves. Like Iron Shirt is one of the moves. I was very inspired when I was doing it by more so by like classic Kung Fu movies, but also Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat. Those are both like key elements, key influences for the book overall. So I think I put about 5 really basic powers up there that you could draw on your inner strength to perform. And they kind of, we talk a little bit about magic and mysticism in this book. Not too much, because it's really the focus isn't that. It's the Kung Fu and the fighting, right? But it's in there. And I will say, I've said this before, if there is enough demand for any one of the 4 settings introduced in that book, I would love to do like a 50-page setting book just for that. That sort of expands on those concepts. But, excuse me.
Sounds like a Facebook poll to me there, Tony. You put up on our Facebook page, which one do you guys like the best?
Yeah, I would love to know which one is of
the 10 listeners that we have out there. We'll see.
Hey,
what they got.
You have tens of listeners.
Well, in case you didn't know, I am actually doing a one-shot Kung Fu Panda adventure for our Nerds International Virtual Con, and I will be using your that particular, starts on page 85, those Kaigong moves, as my inspiration for all the powers, and also the animal Kung Fu styles for the various different. Yeah. Because, if you're playing monkey, you want to use monkey style. So.
Right. So, I would love to explore more of that. There was, when I was doing the book, I was like, man, there's like 100 different animal styles, and I should just do something for each of them. But like at a certain point, you have to cap the page count, right?
Unless you want to create that 300-page book, right?
Right, and I don't want to be that guy. Yeah, I want to keep it accessible. My goal, mostly with the 5 super sort of abilities I did provide, was that I wanted to give enough there to just like kind of show what you could do with these, and inspire you to create your own, right? And that's what Genesys is all about at the end of the day anyway, right? It's like, here's a framework, start making your own within it. And I would also say, outside of like what appears to be just magic, look at the signature abilities too, right? So it, like in Kung Fu Panda, they would have like special strikes. There'd be like, the death punch, or what, it's always a death punch, right? But there'd be like certain striking techniques that you could use, and I think the signature weapon stuff that I get into in there sort of covers ways to do that.
Strike of Mong Xing.
Right, stuff like that. So
Wuxi finger hold.
So I think between the chi powers, the forbidden moves is another thing I have in there, right? Yeah. Forbidden techniques. So between the chi powers, the forbidden techniques, and the signature abilities, like between those 3, I think there's enough framework to adapt anything you see them do in any of the 3 Kung Fu Panda movies.
Yeah, so far.
There's 3, plus there's like several
TV show or whatever.
And
specials.
Believe me, my grandson. Yeah,
fair enough. Old. I can't claim to be an expert in all of it, but I've definitely seen the 3 movies. I think what's his name? Poe.
Yeah.
Poe.
I pop in the DVDs once every 2 or 3 months at least.
Anything with James Hong is going to get at least like a watch out of me once, right? Just to hear his voice. But I think Poe would definitely have like that invulnerability power, right? There's one of them in there somewhere. Iron shirt, I think is what we call it. But like, cool. This would be more like doughy shirt, but fine.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Panda
same effects.
Armor of blubber.
There you go.
Yeah. But I think there's enough there definitely to get you going. Obviously, you think so. You started doing it, but
Cool.
So I'd say just get creative and look at all 3 of those rule sets, because I think all 3 of them are going to contribute something that's like, oh, that's how I'll do this.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we've talked extensively to you. We've asked you a bunch of questions. Now, like we do on our show by ourselves, we're just going to jump over in the next segment. We're going to play some Genesys.
Hey.
Let's do it.
All right, so welcome to part 3 of our show, and our favorite part, but this time we'll be joined by Keith, which will help us illustrate some of the aspects of Ready Fight, of Advantageous Threats.
Yes.
And so, yes, we'll be building a couple of dice pools, educating those rolls in a little scenario I wrote up real quickly for this. We already rolled initiative ahead of time, so that's out of the way. So basically, where this happens is around the 1970s at the Holmes Fanning's Central High School in Chicago, Illinois. Inspired a little bit by Big Trouble in Little China, Kung Fu Hustle kind of movies. So the basic scenario is that we've got the auditorium of a high school where the kids are rehearsing a play, The Wizard of Oz, and one of them, the lead, Meredith, is the target of a kidnapping. Some triads, the Hong Feng triad, which means the Red Wind triad, wants to kidnap her. Their leader has some kind of mystical ritual that she wants to do. So she sent her Savage Cloud sisters, 3 women with some goons, to abduct her. And we've got 3 people who might stand in their way.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do a little quick intro of your characters? We'll just quick overview.
Sure.
Tony?
I'll start. I'm playing Hemlock Jones. I've been following these triads. I'm a martial artist PI.
That's a thing, for sure.
A martial arts PI. You know it is.
Kung Fu detective,
now.
man.
Kung Fu detective, baby.
Literally Hong Kong Phooey.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, and Chris?
I am playing Meredith's boyfriend, who is currently trying out for he's currently dressed up as the Cowardly Lion, named Danny Huang. He's a martial artist competitor. And as soon as they grab her, he's going to be going off, man.
All right. And Keith?
I'm Mr. Zepeda. I'm the high school gym teacher and wrestling coach. I selected the high school wrestler archetype in the professional career, and I am in the auditorium because I heard that Danny was going to waste his high school years playing the Cowardly Lion when I really need him on my wrestling team with the skills that he has. So,
all right, so good. So it's after school, not too late, but that's why the people are here to rehearse after classes. Mrs. Stephanie is the drama teacher, so she is directing them, trying to get the most emoting out of them. No, more Cowardly Lion, more. And about
and then I do like a jump kick. Yeah.
So we've got a few people in the seats waiting their turn, maybe while rehearsing their lines. Some on stage. One person maybe up above directing the lighting, and so about 8 to 9 students, all the 2 teachers and the janitor, old man Pearson, just getting ready to just clean up afterwards all this mess.
Me and Pearson probably drink behind the school after hours all the time.
Probably.
Just as long as it's only Bud Light, he'd be okay with that.
That's right.
All right, so. The bad guys got, let's say, first initiative, and with a triumph, which means they get to do a bit of a move. So they burst in from behind the stage right and stage left, and move some of the students roughly out of the way. And the three sisters, they basically rappel down some of the lines, raising the backdrop. Nice. Yeah, raising the backdrop of the forest to the Emerald
Poppy
City.
Fields? Oh, Emerald City. Gotcha. Poppy Fields now.
Yeah. So they rappel down and just do the dramatic pose.
Say, wow, really, really great production value for the flying monkeys in this thing,
Yeah, exactly.
For a high school production, this ain't bad.
So that's pretty much their action, and they single out Meredith. Grab her. Kill anyone who resists, who gets in our way.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, they're ruthless. So that's basically their
I'd
action.
like to volunteer to go last as far as the PC's actions go, because I think my character wouldn't realize this is a real fight right away.
All right, fair enough. So that's the NPC slots. They come in and, do their whole entrance bit.
Okay.
So next up is a PC slot.
I would like to make Hemlock's dramatic entrance into the arena.
Of course.
Or into the auditorium. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to rip open the doors on the side of the auditorium and kind of like work the crowd, so to speak.
Okay.
With my coercion. I want to kind of, get all right, motherfuckers.
Do the dramatic entrance.
Like Aragorn style. Yeah, I'm here now.
The flowing trench coat and everything. All right.
Sweet.
Cool. Yep. It says, all right, motherfuckers. These black fists of fury are here to beat your ass. Come on. All right.
Oh, man.
All right. What? So coercion?
Coercion, yeah.
What would you say is the difficulty?
Let's see. Well, you're doing this against the whole group.
Yeah, I'm going to actually try to basically thin some of these minions out, maybe scare some of them off.
All right, so the minions, well, they're just minions. Well, there's 2 groups of minions, so only 1 willpower, but since there's 2 groups, I'll make it 2 difficulty.
Does Hemlock Jones have like a reputation with these people? You said you'd been like hunting them or whatever, right?
I've been fighting the triads for a while. Yeah.
Oh, so they know of you. Sounds like somebody's maybe asking for a boost die.
Yes, so maybe a boost dice. Yes, go ahead.
All right.
It's like, oh no, not Jones.
So since our boost die whore is GMing, Keith has stepped in. Immediately stepping in. It's gonna that guy a boost die.
Atta guy. All right. So for coercion, I'm going to be using my willpower, which is 2, and I have 1 rank in coercion. So I have 1 yellow, 1 green, 1 blue.
And it is opposed by willpower as well, right? No.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, if you want it to be, it's a discipline check, or discipline is what it's.
Right, discipline, but they don't have discipline, so.
So that's 1 willpower, and you said you were adding 1 or upgrading.
Just one, like the 2 groups. I have each 1 willpower. Put them together, just 2 difficulty.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else?
I don't think so. No, we'll be good.
All right. All right, first step is I ended up with just 1 advantage. Washed out. I had 2 successes, 2 failures, but 1 advantage.
Just
maybe
confusion.
Maybe your voice echoes. You know, and it's like Big Daddy voice. I'm here.
Like they don't even know which way you're coming from. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe my failure is that while I did open the door and I did sound intimidating, the one teacher, language,
monsieur.
You did drop the MF bomb, didn't you?
and I'm just like, oh, sorry, ma'am.
We have impressionable ears here.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right.
And then for my maneuver, I will maneuver up into the next range band closer to the minion groups. Start taking them out.
All right.
Because you always work through the minions to get to the bosses.
Well, that's it. So you'll be in close range next time. What do you want to do with your advantage?
My single advantage, I think, just because the fact that somebody else has showed up to kind of bolster these 2 guys, these other guys that were already here. Next player to act kind of feels emboldened that there's actually somebody here to help.
So that'll be
It's a boost.
It's not cowardly.
And luckily enough, it's another PC slot. So
all right, awesome. So Danny, he hears this chick says, "You need to grab her," points to my girlfriend. "No, you don't." And I'm going to just go up to the nearest minion group and do a...
and this PI that just burst into the auditorium that you sort of recognize.
Yeah.
So you get a boost die for that.
Perfect. So I'll get a boost die for that. I'm just going to go up to one of these minion groups and I'm going to do a leopard paw because, you know what, I'm dressed as a fucking lion. And I'm going to leopard paw that fucker. Right? So let's see. So that's going to be
Put him up.
Put him up. Put him up.
Take you down with one
I'm going to take you down. Put him up. All right. So, so actually,
all right.
Danny's kind of big. I did grab, like, the scrapping talent, and I did spend 10 XP to make him 6 foot tall.
Oh, wow.
So that would give him a boost die if we're doing the rules for the size. So I think it's, every plus 4 inches or something.
Yeah.
Such. So, all right, so I'll grab another boost die for that.
Well, at least another boost die. Yeah, these guys are a little shorter.
Mm-hmm. Leopard Paw, Pierce, Linked, Knockdown. All right, Rock out. Oh, but Reach -1, so I'll take that boost die away. Woohoo! Awesome. Okay. So I have 2 purple difficulty. He's got 2 in striking, and he's got a 3 bronze, so 2 yellow, a green, a blue, and 2 purple.
Chris, if you don't mind, why did you remove a boost die for Reach?
Oh, I'm
Explain
sorry.
That for
Yes,
our listeners.
I'm sorry. So the Leopard Paw unarmed gear that I spent 10 XP to get has damage 2. Actually, it's brawn -1, so damage 2, crit 3, pierce 2, linked 1, knockdown, but reach -1. And the reach -1 subtracts 4 inches, so that will remove a boost die for me.
All right.
Gotcha.
Or if I go below the neutral size, it'll add a setback die or something for every step below that.
Gotcha.
And yes, as Keith said, lots of different fiddly bits at the end of this leopard claw, which is great.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Oh, he
on
is
advantage, right?
He is triumphant, motherfuckers.
Oh, buddy.
Language!
All right, yeah, language. All right, so 1 success, 1 advantage,
Motherfucker.
1 triumph. So he's going to do a leopard paw. Damage,
All right.
3 damage. Pierce 2, though, because it's leopard paw.
Right.
Yeah, the leopard paw and the kung fu, it's like when they hold their hands sort of like
Okay.
Yeah.
they're punching with like that first row of knuckles,
And
but
it
they're
is-
real short, fast strikes, and they're aiming them at like your neck, basically, like at your throat.
Nice. So, yeah, I'm going to hit one of these minion dudes with that, and I'm going to spend my triumph to take one out. Boom!
That's it. So 1 minion goes bye-bye already.
You said you had advantage, too?
I had 1 advantage, and that might... You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to pass that on to my future wrestling coach. Because he's got...
Mr. Zepeda.
He's got some skills. Mr. Beta, he's got some skills.
So how much damage was that total?
Okay, so total damage was 3 damage, pierce 2.
All right. So 3 damage. Yeah, 3 damage. So they only got soak 1. So
Okay, and then I'm going to use the triumph to take a minion out of that group.
out. All right. So you take 1 out with your triumph.
Nice.
And and just take another one out as well. There's just 1 left.
Hell yeah! Woo!
Nice.
There we go.
There we go.
So
Excellent.
there's another minion group like right there? Or?
Yeah, there's another minion group not too far away as well.
Okay.
So then we go to an NPC slot.
Oh, it's his slot, huh?
Yep, we have a couple. Yeah, then there'll be another NPC slot. So the other minion group will seem to see maybe the potential of the coach there maybe getting involved, and they'll jump him.
Oh, nice.
He looks like trouble.
Because he's standing. Not Danny.
You know, in my Everlast sweatpants and
Yeah. I actually made more sense to try to get to Hemlock because he's moving forward anyway. It's like, oh no, not him. We have to take him out.
Oh, that's true.
to be fair, I'm not necessarily involved yet. I'm just sort of
exactly.
thinking it's a really weird play.
Yeah. So they take a maneuver. They take a maneuver
Quite
to.
giving.
They take a maneuver to come up with their asp batons, collapsible batons, and move into.
Oh, very Big Trouble Little China style.
Oh,
the big beat down on Hemlock. So there we go. So they've got. They'll be using their melee.
What you're probably thinking is like, did he really hit them? I thought this was supposed to be a play, a fake play.
That's brawl. So there you go.
That's French production. It's so
You could have
strange.
spent your advantage to land the part. Like you stayed in character the whole time. Put him up! Put him up!
No, that's true.
All right. Yeah. So they'll be doing that. So let's go. So, all right. So 2 success and 4 advantage.
Ooh, nasty.
Whoa.
What attack did they use? Oh, it was the baton, right?
The baton.
They had like
basically.
disorient or something,
Yeah, they'll have disorient 1.
Oof.
or a crit, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll activate the disorient. It's more fun that way.
Nice.
So that does a total of 5 damage.
Okay. I have a soak of 3, so
Okay.
I'll take 2 of that.
All right, and activate the disorient with the rest of the advantages.
Got it. I got a black die for
There we go.
1 round.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep. All right, and then we go to a PC slot. Keith.
It's my turn. So now that people are getting beaten with sticks, I'm pretty convinced that there's something horrible going on here, and this is weird and wrong.
Yes.
So
These are not faculty students or
No,
faculty members.
so this weird person who just burst in through the door screaming and is in a fight with other people that don't go to school here, I don't care about that as much right now. But there is a student who is in an altercation with three adults. So
2 of them are already down, although one of them has a stick right there.
right. So I'm gonna spend a maneuver to like mount the stage. I assume I was like standing by, being like, "Danny, get out of the weird little kid's costume and come to the rescue. So I'm going to vault up onto the stage as a maneuver, climb up there, nothing too fancy. Yeah. And then if that's not, I'll suffer 2 strain to get another maneuver if I need to, but then I want to do a takedown of the remaining minion.
Sure. No need to for another maneuver. You're just close
Getting
enough.
up there is close enough? Okay. So I'm going to initiate a takedown attack, which is a brawl grappling attack. So my brawl will be, I have a brawn of 4 and 2 ranks in brawl grappling. So it's probably going to be super nasty. And it's against just the 2 purple, right? Let's see, has anything I need to know about defense-wise?
Nope, just 2 purple. Yeah, no defense.
And 2 success and 2 threat.
All right.
So the damage would be 7 points of damage.
Oh.
But it also has the exhausting 2 quality, which means I suffer 2 strain.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, definitely you take him out just, with that awesome maneuver. You just put him into that lock and just,
Was it like a pile driver? Pile driver maybe or something?
Possibly. He's not that tough. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, just pick him up, dump him on his head, and that's the end of that guy, right?
Yeah, but that's the end of that group.
With the 2 threat, is there anything?
Some threat. While you're busy at that, it might give a bonus to one of those ladies there, the Ruthless Enforcers.
Fair enough.
Sisters.
Right. Okay. It could also maybe it leaves me prone. Maybe I took him down and went down to the ground with him instead of...
There you go. That'll be good at prone. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
All right, so 1 minion group gone. That's fine. I'll just take away 1 initiative.
Get up.
So that's the in that NPC. Well, the NPC slots for the 3 sisters. There we go. Mm-hmm. So one of them will move towards Meredith and starts grabbing her. She's not really a fighter, so she just manages to put her a bit into a lock and moving off stage slowly. Of course, she's struggling, so. And the other 2 will move in towards the 2 other people on stage, both Danny and, Mr.
Zapata.
Zapata, there you go. Right.
That was the best gym teacher name I could come up with in short notice.
That's fine.
That's great.
So there we go. So then, coordinated assault. Once per turn as a maneuver, they may grant up to 2 allies within short range. Best defense. Right now, they're not going to do that. They're just going to try and do some their own melee or martial arts with their Dao sabers drawn.
Oh no, they have swords? Jeez.
Holy crap, dude.
It's escalated so quickly.
It so did. Wow.
Don't worry. Hemlock's here to solve this.
There you go. So, melee of 3s, and that's based on agility 3. There we go. Now, since they're in the city, they will switch that to stun, or like the batons again. That way, instead of vicious, they'll have disorient.
Okay.
All right.
Who are you going after?
3 and 3.
First, 3 attacking first.
We'll go after the person who just took out 2 of their goons.
Yep.
Danny.
So, they've never fought a real lion before. I'm going to spend a story point, upgrade that fucker.
All right.
Fucking tail bouncing in their face and everything, man.
Yeah. And do you have any defense?
Dude, heavy clothing, baby. 1 soak. I'm going to give myself a soak. How about that?
A soak point, yeah.
I think I'm going to freaking need it.
It's heavy. It's padded, yeah, in all the right places. All right, so I'm not flipping any story point for now.
Good.
All right, so no despair, but a couple of threats and a failure. All right, that cancels that out. So 2 successes and 2 threat.
Nice.
So you just get hit, bong, a little bit soundly, for a total of 6 damage.
6 damage. All right, I'll soak 4 of that.
Yeah.
What?
And
you cut my freaking
2
costume.
threats. You've got 2 threats. What do you want to do with the threat?
is 2 threat enough to kind of knock one of their weapons out of their hand? Or is that 3? Can't remember.
If it's not,
you know what, it slips. You know what, it slips in her hand, so she's gonna have like a setback die to hit me next time.
She'll have a setback die. Perfect, not a problem. That'll be Bay. We'll call her against Danny. All right, and then the other will attack Professor Zepeda.
Sure.
Same dice pool. There we go. Difficulty 2, and she saw the threat that maybe Mr. Zepeda is, so I'll flip a story point upgrade.
Oh my!
Oh no!
Yes. And yeah, she'll try to knock you out. Hopefully, do you want to upgrade the difficulty?
No, not at this time. I do have my second effort ability, where once per session I can spend a story point to reroll any 2 dice from a single check.
Right.
So if I don't like the results and they're really nasty, maybe I'll use that. But
all right. But since you're prone, yeah, she does get a boost die to that.
yes.
All right. All right. Let's do it. So there you go. Got some failures, even though I upgraded. So there we go. These two. Oh, 1 success only. And 1 advantage. 2 advantage, actually.
Okay. I think I'm just going to take the hit then.
All right, so that's 5 damage.
I soak 4 of it, so that's not so bad.
All right. And
We're on 4, man.
There you
for
go.
2 advantage, she'll give a boost die to her colleague, Zoo, who will be going after Hemlock.
Nice.
And she's the last one to go. So there you go. Do you have any defense, Hemlock?
I am wearing a martial arts gi, so yes, I do have 1.
1 defense. Perfect.
Cool.
So you're looking at a dice pool of 2 purple, a black, and 3 yellow. Do you want to flip a story point?
Yep.
All right.
I've chased you sisters across the city, and I will have my vengeance.
All right. She's not
She's
going
just
to.
facing off against me and knowing that I have
Yeah,
chased after them for days.
That's it.
Nice.
So, but she gets her boost die from her sister. Alrighty. Well, the boost die didn't come up anything. So, a couple of dice. Some failures. Alright. So, actually, she fails.
Nice.
That's right.
One failure.
With the Hemlock.
Yep.
That's Jones. Hemlock Jones.
With 6 advantage, though.
Ooh. Ooh.
So even though she fails to actually hit you, she
I have an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, she's just been... Would she have a sword?
No, she's got a stun baton. Or the axe baton there.
Wow.
Well, she hooks my gi
Mm-hmm.
and throws me to the ground, but in the process rips it off, so I lose my armor.
But also, like...
But Hemlock's going to be fighting shirtless.
Yeah, of course.
Buff, baby.
Thematic. Very thematic.
That's right.
Naked passive defense.
Well, that gives him at least 4 defense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean...
Well, he ain't worked up a sweat yet. That'll be in a few minutes.
He's going to have to spend like a charm or coercion check to have a flex, you know? He gets the flex scene, then he can get some temporary defense.
You know what,
That's
Keith?
so...
I'm feeling a new talent in Ready Fight 2 coming.
Flex, yeah. Like intimidating flex.
Yes. Sweaty flex. Right?
Like magically oiled up all of a sudden. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can see it working.
Armor.
I can see it working.
I could see him be completely oiled up.
So those three goons see that, you know, like they see their advantage increase. Like, yeah, they're going to let's do the intimidators. They've got the intimidator ability. They'll try that on Hemlock Jones, since he's surrounded now, and one of their leaders, lieutenants, is helping them. So it's an opposed coercion versus discipline, but I use brawn and their brawn instead of presence. So their coercion, there's 3 of them. So there you go, and brawn.
Was that a talent out of Ready Fight?
No, it's just it's part of their stat blocks.
Yeah, it's isn't that from the Kung Fu setting? I think that's one of my
nice.
bandits or something is what I think that is.
I mean, bandits, intimidators. So
I didn't see a reason to give the bandit minions high presence or whatever for coercion or whatever skill it was.
Mm-hmm.
It made more sense to just like they're intimidating people. Yeah, so I just tied it to a different attribute.
So if successful, the GM selects at least 2 items in the character's possession. They must surrender 1 to the bandits.
Yeah, it's like a stick up. It's like a mug.
Yeah.
Here's my gi.
You want my pants too? I'm not naked.
And what is Hemlock's discipline?
Hemlock has. Let's see. I think
Hemlock's got to have
one.
cool about discipline.
No
I
discipline.
do have
Totally
one
has that.
rank in discipline and a willpower of 2. So it's going to be 1 red, 1 purple. For you.
The 1 purple. All right.
It's actually the archetype skill for being a martial artist.
Oh, fair. Okay.
There you go. So 3 yellow, a purple, and a red.
Archetype.
I forgot about that.
And yeah, I'm good with that roll. Do you want to flip a story point or?
Yeah, they're just minions.
All right. Fair enough. All right. No despair, but some threat again. So that cancels out the advantage. But you do get 5 successes.
Oh.
And a threat.
Oh. Well.
So you surrender 2 items or to them.
Give them your pants.
Pants and my wallet. Actually, I probably would have my trusty 45 also, but I don't want to use it in a hand-to-hand fight in a school.
Yeah,
Sure.
or maybe as more of an intimidator in here instead of just for these guys. It just unnerves you. So it'll give you a setback dice for your next action.
Okay. All right. If that's what you want.
Yeah,
that's
that'll
fine.
be enough.
So I'm just kind of. Oh, this is. I had this flashback to a previous Advantageous Threat where I was surrounded in an alley
Oh, there you
by
go.
a bunch of goons.
There you go. You're getting a
Maybe this
flashback.
minion group has a couple of those guys from that group that beat the crap out of me.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We know we can take this guy. He's not so tough.
We beat your ass before.
So now we go to another PC slot. There we go.
All right, so we back to the top.
All right. We're
Danny,
back to
take
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to take it?
Yeah.
So let's see. Girlfriend's being taken away. Just got cut with a sword. Or whatever. You know what?
What's
I
my
see.
muse for this scene?
My muse for this. My muse. Come on, show me my motivation.
What's my motivation for this scene?
Well, definitely gonna roar. But I'm going. You know what? He sees. Wrestling coach is there. He sees that. She kind of, as she overstretched herself with her threat, he just headbutts her. He's gonna try and maybe stun her so he can get away to go get his girlfriend. And
It's a very risky headbutt maneuver, which
I
is
know.
also free, right? It's 0 XP.
it is 0 XP,
There's a
baby.
reason for that.
2 damage. Yeah, there's a
yes,
reason for that.
Yes, there is.
Reach.
Yes, there
Okay, so here we, as we say, so it's brawn -1, crit 5, but I'm not going to spend my advantage on that. Concussive 1, so she'll be concussed, stunned for a round, knockdown, but reach -2. So I'm going to give myself a setback die on this because it makes me a little short or whatever. That's the fighter size thing.
She does have defense 1.
All right, so another. Oh shit, this isn't going good. But you know what? I'm going to spend a couple strain and aim
All
because
right.
I can.
Yep.
And yeah. Oh, I'm going to spend a story point too because damn it, Meredith is being taken away.
Big
All
moment.
right.
Big moment.
We've got 1 story
Big
point for
moment.
the players left and 3 on my side.
Do you want to spend one as well?
Oh, sure, why not?
I would suggest you might because I'm using a headbutt.
Yeah.
You want that chance
never
for
know.
despair? All right, here we go. So we have 3 yellow, 2 blue, 2 black, a red, and a purple.
A partridge
even.
in a pear tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dice pool right there.
Holy
colors
failure,
of the bow.
Batman. Holy failure, Batman.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
so I have 2 failures, but... Oh, I have to hit her, though. Damn it. Okay,
Yes,
2
you have to.
failures, 2 failures, but 4 advantage. 4 advantage.
All right. So you fail. So the tail of your costume gets in the way.
No, you know what? I'm thinking that. I'm thinking the tail. Yeah, I'm thinking my tail just trips her. I do this, and we're just kind of tangled up. And as I go to leave away from her, it trips her, and she's prone.
All right, so she's prone too. All right,
that works.
Yeah, why not? That tail.
And she has a setback. Sure.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of other props and stuff all around the stage as well. If you ever think of other stuff to do. All right, so that was your roll.
Oh, did the Tin Man bolt
the hatchet?
Yeah. Did he drop his axe? And is it a rubber axe?
It's probably paper mache. I'm
pretty sure.
It's plastic and
cardboard with tinfoil on it.
Yeah.
But they might not know that if you brandish it right,
That's it.
That's true.
Sell it with a deception check. Who knows?
All right, so that was Danny, and we have another PC slot.
I'm ready to go. I have a plan, I think. So I think now that there is one of these rivals knocked prone, and they must be engaged with me, I imagine.
There's one that was engaged with Danny, Bay. She's prone. The one that was on you.
But we were both engaged.
We're probably right there. I'm thinking we're pretty much all right there.
I imagine we're all right there. What I'd like to try is, or I could do it to the one standing. That's fine too. I could just do it to you. She's right there, and she's the one who attacked me. To be fair, I want to try a joint submission. I want to try just grabbing her ankle and wrapping my legs and going for a knee bar, which would be fun. So that would just be a joint submission attack. Now I'm in the prone position attacking someone standing. Do I get a setback for that?
When making a melee attack, yes, you do have a setback.
I thought so. And now a joint submission is inaccurate 3. These are hard to land. So I have a big fistful of setback dice.
Wow.
It also has prepare 1. So I have to spend a maneuver just to have an opening to do it.
Okay.
So I have to do all of that. But then it's my brawl grappling, which is 2 yellow and 2 green. And it's just against her regular 2 purple melee difficulty. Does she have any defense, though?
Yes, she has 1 defense.
So I have 5 setback dice. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 strain to aim this.
Okay.
Cool.
Just to
So
throw
there's a talent idea for you right there. If it's just an idea, ground specialist.
Yeah.
When you are prone, remove setback dice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Grappling specialist.
It's
wrestlers are always on the ground.
I only had so much XP to spend here on this pre-gen. But we're gonna give it a try here. Big fistful of dice, and I might use my second effort ability on this. I lost the die. What did it land on? Double success. That's pretty good.
That player.
He is that kind of player. That's on the ground. Oh, it's double
I get to
success.
re-roll it if you want.
He's a special guest. We'll give him allowance.
Yeah,
That's
2 successes. Dude, he's got 5 setback dice. Give him the 2 success.
Yeah, you know what? This worked out pretty well, though. If I'm doing this right. Yeah. So I just ended up with 3 success, which means I'm not going to be able to trigger a lot, but I land the attack. So it's exhausting 1. So first, let me suffer 1 more strain. My strain economy is going through it like crazy.
I do like that you've added the exhausting quality to these weapons.
Yeah, exhausting
That's
and
cool.
reach were the 2 qualities. Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
I just figured I want to dissuade people from spamming kicks or takedowns or some of these slightly higher powered attacks. It was another way to balance them.
Right. Cool.
And again, depending on what setting you're using, you might choose not to use that rule and take it off the weapons. If I'm doing a takedown character that's again fighting cyborgs and people with rocket launchers and machine guns, I might decide that's an extra level of balance that works against the concept rather than for it, right?
Gotcha. Yep.
It's going to depend on the setting. But for unarmed people versus unarmed people, I think it works really well.
Right.
So do I want to re-roll any of these dice? I feel like I should, right?
Might as well.
Now, that talent that you have, it lets you re-roll a certain number of dice or the whole
Any
pool?
2 dice, and it's
Any two? Okay.
I get to pick any 2 from the check and re-roll them if I want to.
That's pretty cool.
You know what? I think I'm just not gonna. I think I'm okay with this. So I'm gonna deal. Where is it? There it is. 2, 3, 4, 5 points of damage. Pierce 5, so it's ignoring any soak.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna re-roll a die there.
All right.
I gotta re-roll one. I'm gonna re-roll this purple one, which came up with a double threat.
Right.
That
And I'm
makes
going to
sense.
re-roll this setback that came up with a single threat. And hopefully get some... I got a blank and a double threat. So I net gain an advantage out of that. Damn it, that wasn't enough to do anything.
And how much damage was it?
It's still 5 points of damage, but it's Pierce 5 as well. So it's ignoring everything. But unfortunately, I can't do any of the more exciting effects with only one advantage. So... yeah, I guess I'll just pass if I can, a setback to her. Do I need 2 advantage to do that? I'll just heal a strain, maybe.
It's up to you, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just 1. I'll just heal a strain.
All right.
So, yeah, I deal 5 damage, and I definitely have, like, her knee bent in some crazy way or whatever, right? But
yeah. Definitely.
Ouch.
oh, wait, no, I'm wrong. 1 advantage, it's critical 1. I can do a critical hit. That's what this thing's designed to do, dummy.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, shit, you're right. There is a 1 right there.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea. Is that
I was looking right at it.
That much damage. It's only 2. It's -2 of your brawn. So for a lot of people, these things will do 0 damage, but they just do critical hits. So I rolled an 87, legit. I don't have my...
I've got the table here, 87.
Yeah, hopefully it's a
Would be-
limb breaker.
Oh, compromise. Increase the difficulty of all skill checks by 1
Yeah, that
until
sounds
this
pretty good.
is healed.
Nice.
That sounds
what the hell?
So
Awesome.
I definitely, like, you heard some shit popping in her knee.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Awesome.
pop.
Snap.
That's exactly what that's
Dislocation.
supposed to do. That's exactly what that's supposed to do.
There we go.
1 difficulty.
That's
There
I
you
knew I
go.
was missing something.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, buddy.
Also, G has +1 difficulty on anything she tries. All right. So there we go. Now
Did you add your 10% to it, though? Because it is Vicious 1.
Oh, I didn't. Does it have...
It has Vicious 1, huh?
Am I looking at the wrong thing? Isn't the takedown? Oh, no, I wrote it in the wrong place.
No.
See, I'm a moron when I'm copying stuff from one thing to
Joint
the other.
submission. Vicious 1.
Yeah, I rolled an 87, so I guess it's a 97.
Ooh.
97. All right. So that would be crippled. One of the
Yeah,
target's
that's
limbs
better.
Sounds
is
good. Pop, pop.
impaired until it's...
So that leg is toast. I popped that knee.
So yeah, increase the
Same
difficulty
effect.
of all checks that require the use of that limb by 1.
So
So
I
yeah.
definitely like the way this move works is like you grab your ankle and you throw your hips up so your legs sort of wrap around one of their legs in a figure 4. And then you just start rolling and it's almost like an arm bar but with the knee. And I just torqued on it until something in that knee snapped and started bending the wrong way.
Wow.
So she won't dance again, probably.
Nope.
Whoa.
No prom for her.
There you go. Nice.
All right. So next up, I'll have... Okay, now we're to the 3 sisters. So 1 against Danny. She's got the setback. She'll
She's prone.
try her... Yep, she's prone.
Don't get up. Don't get up. Stay down.
She just tells her 3 goons what to do, which will give them an advantage on all combat checks until the next turn. And then she uses one other maneuver to get up.
Awesome.
That'll be her action.
Okay.
That's all her action. So she gets 2 strain for that as well. There we go. So then we've got the broken limbed G trying to flail away at the.
So now,
I'm pretty sure she's just going,
so let me ask you. So let me ask you kind of a mechanics kind of question. So technically, you succeeded at a grapple check, right? So you do have like an advantage. Would this be considered an advantage step? when you do
No,
like
I would say I didn't exceed it like a grappling check to grapple, which is what would have been required to improve my position and do all that. Now, that said, if I had a bunch of like advantage, I probably could have made a case to spend some to be like, can I be in an advantageous position or whatever?
Gotcha.
But no, instead I put it into the crit, right? But the joint submission specifically, what it's designed to do is exactly what it actually did. I'm very pleased.
Takes out a
which
joint.
is right. It's supposed to snap limbs, stuff like that, or at least put pressure on them. And there's actually like a sub mechanic on it where, like, let's say I only rolled a 13, I could have said like, okay, we're going to hold that, and I could have banked that 13 and added plus 13 to the critical check next turn.
Gotcha.
So like it's in there in the rules.
Yep.
It's a little,
and I think maximum 130. So you wouldn't really be able to kill anybody with it, but you could mess them up big time.
Right. There's some limits that like direct you toward crits that make sense for what you're trying to do, which is usually snap bones and stuff.
Yeah, she's like, man, she's got her leg that's pretty much useless. So I increased her difficulty by 1.
It looks like an L going the wrong direction.
Like a lion.
Don't mess with Mr. Zapata. I have a feeling both attendance and behavior is going to be great in my classes moving forward.
Pretty sure. I did. And I'm pretty sure Danny won't be able to say no to joining the team.
So she's going to try and get Mr. Zapata off of her, hitting him with a baton again.
Okay.
Spending a story point to desperately get him away from her.
Awesome.
Sure.
So we got 3 yellow, 1 green, and 3 purple.
I have no defense or anything like that.
All right. And did you want to spend a story point to upgrade her difficulty?
No, I think I'm okay. I have soak 4, so I'm
Let's go for it then. All right, so we've got quite a bit of threat. Let's cancel out those advantages. And so we've got basically 1 success and 1 threat.
Okay.
Out of all of that cancels
How much
out.
damage is it then?
So that would be 5 damage.
Yeah, I'll take 1.
All right. And like I said, 1 threat. Say like she overextends herself and at least a strain.
Okay.
Cool.
And their rival, so it translates to a wound. And then the lady on Hemlock Jones. Was she prone or?
She threw me on the ground, and ripped my shirt
She threw
off.
you, right? So she's gloating there.
On top of him, straddling him. Oh, wait a second.
Yep. Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
It's a different game.
That's it. It's totally different. Totally different.
You may have got my shirt.
Something else.
You may have got my shirt, and your minions may have beat me before, but I'm gonna chuck you out that door.
No. There we go. Another talent there for you, Keith. Bad rhyming.
This only fits in a 70s kung fu movie.
Sure.
You know it does.
Yeah. So she will try and try to get her baton to maybe throw Hemlock Jones to the ground.
I had watched that recently. It was They Call Me Bruce, right? Show enough. I love that.
The last dragon.
The Last Dragon. That's what it was.
Bruce Leroy. Yep.
We've got
Bruce Leroy.
3 yellow, 2 purple. Do you want to upgrade? You've got 3 story points on your side.
No, actually, I'm good. I have yet to act, so.
All right. So we'll just go. Lots of threat again. Cancels out the advantages. So there we go.
She's distracted.
And she does get a couple of successes. That's 3 and 3. 1 success, 1 advantage.
Okay.
So she managed to hit for 5 damage.
All right, I'll soak 3 of that, taking 2 more.
Right, and with advantage, she does disorient you again.
Oh, wait, I'll soak. My gi was gone. Oh, they didn't have any defense. Never mind. No. I'm good.
All right. Then a PC slot at the very end of the
But
combat.
you have that oiled chest, though. That's got to give you
Yeah.
something.
So here's the thing. I just told her I was going to chuck her out that door.
Yeah.
But I'm prone. I'm going to use my maneuver to rise up quick. I'm going to kip up.
There you go.
And in doing so, I'm going to use my fancy footwork talent.
Awesome.
All right.
Which allows me to spend 2 strain and do a maneuver. So that's actually 4 strain because it's my second maneuver.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll spend the 4 strain to do that, but it's going to give me an automatic success and an automatic advantage on this attack. Now, I'm standing considerably taller than her. I have fighting tall.
Okay.
So I'm kind of up on the balls of my feet with my fancy footwork, making me a little taller. So I'm going to add a boost die in also.
Liking it.
So right now, my striking check, I am going to knock her out that door.
All right.
Literally.
With just a standard unarmed strike, although maybe I should do the elbow. Because the elbow seems cool. I think I'll throw an elbow.
Okay, she does have adversary 1. I forgot the adversary last time.
Okay.
Do all of them or just her?
No, they're all 3 of them. But
how's come I'm getting penalized? Nobody else did. I'm just kidding.
Because he just remembered.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now I have
and 1 defense. So
brawl striking of 3 yellow. I have 3 black dice. One goes away because I'm no longer prone. So 1 from being disoriented still.
Mm-hmm. 1 from her defense.
1 from her defense, and I have a boost die.
Yep.
From fighting tall.
Yep.
Nice.
I think that includes encounter. Yeah, that's everything. Let me get to make sure I have my martial arts attack here ready to go because I didn't look up the elbow. I didn't write it down. I added it last minute. All right, so there it is. Okay, I got it. All right.
Go for it. Knock her out.
All right, so the red die came up blank. My purple die is canceled out by the boost die. My 2 setback dice are canceled out by 1 of my yellow dice. That leaves me with 2 successes, 2 triumphs.
Oh my goodness!
Hell yeah!
Oh my goodness!
Somebody's going on a note.
So what's the base damage with the success?
All right, so it's -1, so that's actually going to be just 1 damage.
Elbow's not very damaging that way.
No,
But
that's okay.
But
Well, she's got soak, so anyway.
She's got soak.
But still, you've got 2 triumphs.
Triumphs. Although it's a knockdown.
Does the elbow have pierce?
It does. It has pierce, so it's actually pierce 1 more. I didn't do any damage though. But I'm just going to throw her out that door. She's going to go flying out that door with 1 of those triumphs.
All right, so there you go. She flies off, slides on the puddle of water that Old Man Pearson was whopping the floor with. Takes off into the soapy water. Yeah, the soapy water into the parking lot in the back.
And for my other triumph, I was engaged with a minion group. If you don't mind, on the backswing with that elbow, I'm just going to take out a minion.
Sure.
There it is. Nice. Standing cool and standing tall. Right?
Nice.
Is there anybody else to go in that round? Or
so while you flipped her, her high heel clipped one of the her minions and just slid off.
Oh no!
Nice.
Death by stiletto.
So that was the end
out of his eye.
So that was the end of the second round.
A lot has happened.
Too.
A lot has happened.
But we're running out of time.
Yeah, we can stop it there.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do normally, if you wanted to do this, we have some story points on our side. Maybe we would, as players, spend them all to adjudicate how we win this fight.
That's it. There you go. You got 3 points, so one on each. 1 for each player.
Nice.
Keith,
clearly I would spend mine to make this poor woman with the broken knee surrender. She's clearly done. There's not much you could do. All I have to do is get up and take 3 steps away, and she's done. She can't really fight me anymore.
Right.
Nice.
And she passes out from the pain.
I would imagine. But of course, what I'd really want my story point to do is get Danny to join the wrestling team, because I think he's got a bright future, and he's a good kid if we get him out of that really weird lion outfit.
I like the lion outfit. Well,
It has a few tears now in it, but hey.
So what Danny does, he's like, he spins around, and the tail just gets in the face of the one that he was fighting, right? And he just heads on over and saves Meredith, just basically doing a crane hook, because, Danny, right? Why wouldn't he do a crane? Just takes her down and tries to do the same maneuver that he might have, but, he just takes her down with the crane maneuver and says,
there we go.
That good enough, coach?
Attaboy, Danny.
And calls him coach.
You even had help from the Tin Man tripping her up.
There we
back.
go. Nice.
And Hemlock will spend his story point to finish off the last two goons. That's the two that beat him up outside the Mushu Palace in the alley.
Right.
And he is, at the end of it all, he's standing over their groaning bodies, and they're just laying there in barely conscious. He's like, "That's for the Mushu Palace, boys."
Yeah, one of them has his head in the janitor's bucket. The other one just head through pieces of scenery.
Oh no!
And then, of course, GM, you would like to spend your story point for a complication for future?
The one who was holding Meredith, she managed to escape. This is not the end. My lady will have revenge upon you.
Oh, she does get away from me.
Nice.
Darn bummer, awesome.
Nice.
So when
some of the other students panic and they muddle things up. So Lady what was her name again? Lady Zenya will eventually get her revenge.
That's right. Which would probably be on when we have Keith on next time to talk about Ready Fight 2, right? No pressure.
Readier fight.
Readier fight.
Ready. Round 2, fight. That's the way
Round
you guys,
2
because you got to
fight.
like
There we
Mortal
go.
Kombat. Round 2, fight.
Round 2. There you go. That's what you would call it. Round 2.
Or finish him.
I actually do plan on releasing a series of micro products, little NPCs to go with Ready Fight that are sort of ready to use, and those should be coming out within the next month or two. They'll have like the NPC, a talent, and a piece of equipment for like $1.
Perfect.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
Well, guys, let's head on out of here.
All right. Let's do it. All right, everybody, that's our show for tonight. I want to give a shout out to all the podcasts and blogs on the Nerds International Network. The Wild Die, the Brewery, the Murder Hobo Show, the 3T RPG Podcast, Imaginary Ramblings Podcast, Thoughts of a Barbarian, Role Players Imaginarium, and of course, Stephan, your Dragon's Toolbox. You're going to be seeing all these chuckleheads at Con and Cup next week.
Shout out to Andy Hopp, who helps run the show over there. He's the man.
Oh yeah. Does a lot of good work there. Very inclusive as well. Lots of different events, not just one particular role-playing game. He's got games you can borrow to learn. Tabletop games, card games.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So,
have you ever been to that con, Keith?
I have not, but I know Andy a little bit. I've interviewed him once, and he's run his game, his little odd like Muppets on Crack. Fraggle Rock,
Low Life.
Fraggle Crack.
Low Life.
Yeah, Low Life is great stuff, man. Like, Andy's a really gifted writer and artist and performer, too, I would say. Like, what a great GM if you get a chance to get in a game with him.
Yeah.
He is Danny DeVito's twice as charismatic brother.
Yeah, he is.
The crazy one.
Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. I love Andy. He's helped me out on other stuff, too, in the past. Like, when I was running my Patreon, he was like a guest GM for my paid players and all that stuff. So he's really good people in my book. Yeah.
Cool.
Very nice. So that's October the 3rd to the 8th inclusively. So 9 days time from this recording.
Yep.
So we'll be hopefully if some of you are listening, some of some of our tens of listeners might be
showing up
in the area.
Right.
Yeah, you can show up and say hi.
I know Tony has a space or two and a couple of his games he's running. I might as well, but come by and say hi to us.
Yep.
There. Be great to meet you.
And what else is there?
NivCon 3.
Yes.
That's right. That's a Nerds International virtual convention where we get on various different tabletop, virtual tabletops, whether it's Tabletop Simulator, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, or just using Discord dice roller bots.
Yeah.
And you can get on there. I know Jamie Pearson's going to be running some Legion games on Tabletop Simulator. I'm actually running a game on the 10th. This is November 8th through the 11th. That's Veterans Day weekend. Mm-hmm. On the 10th at 7 p.m., I'm going to be running Kung Fu Panda Genesys, The Noodle Cure.
That's great.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's right. So you can reach out to us via email. Tell us how we did today. Tell us whether you like the new segment here, whether we do it ever again, contact
or whether Keith ruined it.
Oh, man.
Remember? No.
If anyone wants to be subject to this.
So that email address is findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me and Stephan, Finding the Narrative, over on Facebook. We're over there pretty often. Nerds International and Finding the Narrative are both on MeWe. And Stephan is diligently watching our Twitter feed at FTN_Genesys.
Yep.
And you can catch us, where you've been listening to us. Tell your friends. We're on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, and more. Thanks for joining us, Keith.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
You got anything you want to plug?
Oh my God, you guys! I have so much stuff. I think we're gonna make it to your longest episode ever if I get to go through this whole list.
Awesome. All right, you got 45 minutes.
Right.
No, actually, no. We've been, I think we're pushing it. Definitely.
So most importantly, there was a new thing announced literally today, maybe yesterday. If this goes up later, you're listening later. But the Genesys Foundry Spotlight that Fantasy Flight Games has started, which is a way to recognize some Foundry products and give them some free marketing. So if you were interested in Ready Fight, if you want to learn more and make FFG show you more, or if you just think the product's deserving of a little more attention, you can go to the article at fantasyflightgames.com. There's an email address there, and just put Ready Fight in the subject line and tell them why you think it deserves the spotlight. I'd really appreciate a vote for that. You could also check out Ready Fight on the Genesys Foundry. It's just Ready Fight ! And then if we mentioned the Adventure Writing Academy, you could learn more about that at www.adventurewritingacademy.com, all one word. And then you can find me on Twitter at krkappel, Kappel, and facebook.com/keith.kappel. That's where I'm most active. So thanks so much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
a
lot for being on.
Oh, I love being on, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool.
All right. Well, this is Tony saying, keep rolling them bones.
And this is Stephen saying, don't forget to ask for those boost dice.
And this is Chris saying, Rawr! No, remember the rule of cool. Just have fun, everybody.
Good night.
All right, good night.
Yep, good night.
Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned in this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. Copyright 2019, all rights reserved.